Hey, so I thought I was done when I got off my live earlier, but then I said, you know what? I am going to talk about something else because on my other channel, a young lady asked me how I felt about the so called civil war between educated lames and the so called pookies and ray rays. And so those terms are apparently distinctions that black men on YouTube have given each other based on certain factors, I guess. So, oh, I got a thumbs down already. I must be doing something right. Okay. So, this is my overall opinion, right? One thing I've noticed about black men on social media is that they're very concerned about the image of black men. If you've paid attention to YouTube today, or maybe it started last night, there was a content creator that did an upload about something that was on Ancestry.com. And, it was about a commercial that talked about something that happened, pre Civil War. There were some instances where you had black women who were enslaved who did find love with non black men. I'm not saying it was common, but it wasn't necessarily uncommon, particularly in certain parts of the South. Um, so if you're a Beyonce fan, when she talked about her family history, she talked about the fact that I think on her mother's side, her grandmother's grandmother was a dark skinned black woman who was a slave in either Louisiana or Texas who ended up marrying a white man back in the 1800s. And, it was a great upload yesterday. It was interesting to see that story. But what happened tonight on YouTube is that there was a black male content creator who has a large platform who decided to give his spin on that Ancestry.com trailer. Hi, Rose. And so it's interesting to me that he decided to do that. And it showed me, it's like, hey, Delphia, it showed me that for a lot of these black men, they're very concerned about controlling the narrative and about ensuring that they're presented in a certain way. And if things are presented in a way to show that in some cases, not all, because we also know that a lot of black women were sexually exploited during slavery. We know that a lot of black women were sexually exploited prior to arriving in the Western world. We know that black women are unfortunately sexually exploited even to this day all over the world. Even though that sexual exploitation exists today, right? We know that there are instances where black women get into relationships and fall in love. And so what that trailer was showing is that for some of the black women that existed in the pre-Civil War era, that was the case. But this particular content creator felt like it was necessary to say, well, hey, no, this is what really happened. And so we have to understand that what's going on I'm going to say in my opinion, right? Because this is just my opinion. I can't say for sure what is happening. But in my opinion, what's going on is that you have certain black male content creators on YouTube who are using the weight of their platforms and their followings to control the narrative. And unfortunately, they're able to do that because of the size of their platforms. So, for example, if you think about If you think about most Black women on YouTube who have content that is not based on celebrity gossip, most of those content creators, even the ones that are larger, usually you don't see them with more than, say, like 700 or 800 live viewers, which is a lot. But then you have some of these Black men who have platforms where they can literally get 2,000 or 3,000 live viewers. So they have a much further reach. And I'm telling y'all, something in my spirit is telling me that a lot of these guys get along more than we probably think. And that's another thing that they have going for them, is that it seems like the Black men on YouTube do a good job at being able to work together or collaborate with each other, even if it's behind the scenes, in spite of their disagreements. And so even if, say you have 5 Black male content creators, one has 100,000 subs, another has 20,000 subs, and the other 3 are smaller channels with less than 1,000. But when you combine the weight of all 3 of those platforms, that's a powerful amount of reach. So that leads me into this conversation about the civil war between educated lanes and pookies and ray-rays, and why I think this is another situation where the grand magician is trying to avoid showing his hand. Okay? With social media, you can control the conversation. Like, look at what's happening with this whole ADOS movement. That's a conversation that really started on social media, and now it is a topic of political conversation. You have mainstream politicians who have to address that topic if they want to get voters. Even if you think about people who are ultra conservative, and you think about people like Alex Jones, who promoted certain conspiracy theories, or if you think about the Keck memes that were going on during the 2016 elections, and people didn't take that stuff seriously, but look who's president. So you can really drive the way that people interpret things through social media if you have a large platform, or if you collaborate with a lot of like-minded people. So one thing I'm noticing in these conversations between the educated lanes and pookies and ray-rays is that you don't see these guys discussing a community and family structure. You don't see them talking about that. You don't see them talking about the importance of wealth building, the importance of having a family, the importance of committed relationships, the importance of establishing a legacy, the importance of marriage. You don't see that happening at all. You see 2 people or 2 groups of people supposedly on opposite sides of an issue going back and forth. And I think that what's happening is that as certain social ideas in the manosphere are gaining momentum, you have people that realize that there are certain branding opportunities available. But to get branding and ad sponsorship, you can't be too controversial. You can't be too far on either side of the argument. So I think this is just an attempt for some people to disassociate themselves from the more controversial elements in the manosphere. And it's an attempt to direct Black women's attention away from the fact that the marital rates aren't changing for the better. You still see people talking about the fact that they don't see the need to build a community for Black women. You still see these men talking about, if they do build, they're going to build for quote unquote exotic Black women or for Black women from outside of the US and for other races of women. They're still talking about replacing the Black woman, presumably with biracial women who have Black fathers and non-white mothers. So these conversations are not really about anything that's going to be beneficial to the collective of Black women. And people know that when these things play out on a grand stage like social media, when you have a relatively large platform, they know that that will be enough to sway some Black women's opinions. To say, well, these guys don't really mean this, or it's just entertainment. It's not really something to be taken seriously. It's not really something that we should be worried about. Oh, these guys had really harsh talking points. Now their tone is softening. Maybe they're really changing. But I'm telling you, ladies, if they are not talking about developing a solid family and community structure for the Black women who are interested in the collective of Black men, then they're playing you. And the other thing that everyone knows when it comes to branding is that amongst any race of people, the women are the primary consumers. So you can't have a message that's perceived as very anti-woman. If you do, you're not going to be marketable because women aren't going to support you, and sponsors who get the most of their money from women are not going to be able to support you. Why? Because if you have this very extremist message, when people see an ad show up on your video, or for these people who have websites, if they see an ad pop up on the website, all people have to do is contact those companies. That's what white women did with white MGTOW on YouTube. That's why you notice a lot of those channels can no longer use MGTOW in their channel names or in their titles, because if they do, their videos are demonetized. I believe that too, Delphia. I definitely believe that. I believe that wholeheartedly. And it's interesting because if you listen to some of the guys in the manosphere, they say the same thing about Black women. So you have Black women who, in my opinion, probably have good intentions in wanting to hear the manosphere's talking points. They really think that it's a possibility to develop some type of understanding. And you'll see those guys in their live chats or in the comment section saying, well, even the women who are here on this channel acting cool cannot be trusted. They're outright saying that even if you're open-minded enough to listen to them, they don't trust you. This civil war is not real. It's smoke and mirrors. You guys, you never know. These people could be behind the scenes orchestrating it. Why? Because even if they get on videos every day going back and forth, guess what? That's beneficial to all of the men participating in those arguments because they're all getting views. If they have monetized channels, then because of the increased views and the increased traffic, they're getting extra money from YouTube. If they have relatively the same audience, they're all getting donations. So some of these arguments, in my opinion, on YouTube are not real. And if you've noticed, because it's something that I have paid attention to, ever since this so-called civil war started, a lot of the content on YouTube from a lot of Black women in terms of sharing opinions about Black men, a lot of the content has kind of died down. because it's kind of like, well, if they're going back and forth with each other, why would we need to talk about it? That seems to be the mindset. But I think that's what the magician is vying on, because remember, they're very concerned about their image. So while they have spent years telling us that we should be able to accept feedback and not be concerned about the thousands of videos that they've made about Black women, they understand how damaging it would be to their image to have so many, excuse me, guys, to have so many Black women, sharing our opinions about them, you know? So I think that's something we really have to pay attention to. And not really be so fooled by the appearance of a conflict. Let me read some of you guys' comments. Let me pull the chat back up. Here it goes. Sorry, I closed out of the window. Okay. Oh, that's a good point, Delphia. I believe that. Because the thing about it is they're so they're so disloyal to the women that support them. That if you pay attention, these guys will get on videos. Let me tell y'all something. These guys will get on videos and low key put it out there. Yep. The woman will be the fall guy if the men get too much heat. And they know that. And they do like to hear Black women bashing other Black women. And that's an interesting point, because one thing that I have seen for years is that Black men on social media will not let women A, dictate who they can be cool with, but B, they will not allow women to get in the middle of their arguments. Yet, they don't afford Black women the same courtesy. But on the flip side, a lot of that is because, unfortunately, you have some of us who will allow them in the middle of our arguments. But you're right, they do seem to like it when Black women bash on others, because what it is it hurts their image for them as Black men to be going back and forth with a woman, you see. So they'll use women to fight their battles. And that way, see, this is the craziness of it. They'll use women to fight their battles, and then we'll sit back and make videos saying, well, see, they can't get along. Let me tell you something. I have seen that more than one time. They literally, listen, everybody on here is not going to get along, because when you think about social media, we don't know each other in real life. You know what I'm saying? So, unfortunately, I think that makes it easy for people, particularly some of us as Black women. I think it makes it easy for us to dismiss each other and to just, kind of walk away from associations. And these men know that. And so instead of them just leaving it alone and going about their business, they get in the middle of it. Why? Because it's important for their image to perpetuate this stereotype that Black women can't get along. Because if they say black women can't get along, then they can say, well, see, this is the reason why we treat them the way that we treat them, because look at what they do to each other. Or this, you can't get mad at me for thinking a certain way because look at what this woman said about black women. Yep, tap, that's right. We do throw each other under the bus to appease men. And it's unfortunate because I have seen this. I have seen women with pretty large size platforms for Black YouTube. I've seen them be very friendly and accommodating to Black men, and those same men will throw them under the bus. Yep, they're calling Pookie and Ray Ray's the Warriors. Because basically, this is a whole debate between, like, when I think of educated lames, I think of like the nerdy dudes, right? Listen, some people are socially awkward when they grow up. That's just life. Some people, grow up and in high school they're the cheerleaders or they're, the star of the football teams. Most people kind of fall in between. And then some people, hey, they get hit with the ugly stick and they're the nerd. They're the skinny nerd that's short and unattractive that no woman is interested in. It's unfortunate, but it's life. And then what happens is sometimes people kind of grow into their looks. Or in the case of men, they make enough money so that women will overlook their shortcomings. But what happens is when the men in that category become adults, when they meet women, it's like those women have to pay for the rejection that those guys dealt with at like junior high and high school. To me, the Pookie and Ray Ray is like the dude in high school that was really cute, super fine, but dumb as a box of rocks. Like the dude that barely finished high school or didn't finish at all, but has kind of skated through life on his looks, or was in and out of jail, and maybe he's at some point in his life where he's doing better now, but he's not doing as well as the so-called educated lame. And so the educated lame resents the fact that he didn't have the looks of the Pookie and the Ray Ray or, the it factor to attract women in high school. But I'm like, okay, most of the guys that I see on YouTube having these conversations have to at least be in their mid-30s. So if you're in your mid-30s or if you're like approaching 40, you graduated from high school like 20 years ago. And you're still mad at something that happened to you so far in the past. You said you almost threw up when you heard that narrative. I don't blame you. Yeah, they always talk about how Black women don't like differences in opinions, but they will kick you out of a chat for giving a different opinion or for laughing at them. Right! The educated lames do make baby mamas. Let me tell you something. Listen, they do. I know a dude that's a very book smart, but literally has, I think he's at 5 children by 4 different women. Book smart, very intelligent, but yeah, all those kids by a bunch of different women. They're, generally speaking, they're no different because they all, first of all, a lot of Black men don't think about legacy. So they don't think about the importance of, getting married and then having children. they literally feel like it's only the woman's responsibility to be sexually responsible without understanding that, okay, yes, as women, we're responsible for our bodies, and as a man, he's responsible for his body. Yep, 30 to 60. And they all really believe this. That's very true, Tap. On some level, the educated black men are actually, in my opinion, they're actually a little bit worse. And the reason I say that is because they know that there's some scarcity. They know that there's not too many of them. And so they have this arrogance that is so annoying. It's so like, it's like, okay, amongst other groups of men, it's a basic thing to be able to support yourself and a family. Like, that's basic, everyday, average expectations. But these dudes will have a car and a roof over their heads and will really think that they're like they're Warren Buffett. And it's like, dude, that's why a lot of y'all don't make a lot of money, because imagine how arrogant some of these dudes would be if they were actually millionaires. But you're right. The educated black man does have his choice of all kinds of black women. All kinds. The Pookies and Ray Rays, they have options within their local communities depending on what part of the country they're in. Now, if they're in one of those areas where there's more black women than there are black men, then they also have their options. Like if they're in Atlanta, maybe the DC metro, places like that, then yeah, even a Pookie and Ray Ray may have a shot with educated black women. Wow, I didn't know that about Prince George's County. I didn't know that. I thought that was supposed to be like this super affluent area. But you know what? Domestic violence has nothing to do with money and affluence. Wow. You know what? I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised because the way some of these dudes act, like the fact that this is even a debate, like I don't even understand the idea of calling yourself a lame. But then the fact that there's this debate between, basically they're separating themselves by class. So it's kind of this classist debate between black men. See, that's why I don't feel like it's real. Because these are the same black men who believe that, like, if a black woman makes $250,000 a year, right? Just throwing that number out there. And she says that she only wants to deal with men in her economic class. These same men, whether they're an educated lame or a Pookie and Ray Ray, would tell that woman that she's wrong to basically have that opinion. But basically, you have this classist debate between two different groups of black men who are basically arguing over women. And it's like, whichever group of them gets the women, they're still not talking about marriage and establishing a solid family structure. So whichever group gets the women, they're probably going to end up making them baby mamas or having them in these long-term 20, 30-year relationships where they never really commit to them. Oh, that's a good point, Tap. Yep, it's a pity thing. It is about shaming women. And to me, it's kind of like, it's unfair for people to try to control Black women's preferences. Like if you're a woman and you have a certain preference, you know, whether it's based on race, skin complexion, height, economics, whatever, you have the right to that preference. You have the right to that preference. You know, if you don't want to deal with a Pookie and Ray Ray, you have that right. If you don't want to deal with the educated lame, you have that right. And this argument doesn't feel real to me because it's like, no matter how these two groups of men resolve the argument, they can't control whether or not women choose them. See, that's the unknown variable. If the educated lames win the debate online, or the Pookies and Ray Rays win the debate, it's not going to mean anything. If you don't get chose, you don't get chose. Let me see. I tried to find a definition of an educated lame. Basically, an educated lame is like what they call a blurred, like a black nerd. So an educated lame would kind of be like a Steve Urkel, or I'm trying to think. Somebody in media. Oh, I cannot think of that dude's name. Oh, it's this black guy on Fox. Dang it. Okay, let me see if I can find his name real quick. He would be kind of like an educated name. That dude, you remember that guy that was accused of cheating on his wife? Oh, okay, here's his picture. Charles Payne. Do you know him? He was that dude that worked at Fox and was accused of sexual harassment. And he ended up losing his job, but he got it back. Yeah. Let me see if I can find. Okay. Is it gonna let me send? Dang. Okay. This is an article. Okay. This is an article with his picture. He would kind of be like an educated lame. He's kind of nerdy looking. Not in a bad way, but see, he was able to get married. He was able to get married, and even though his wife chose him, he still cheated on her. Let me see who else would probably be an educated lame. Like, I don't know, like maybe like a Herman Cain, or dang. Those are the only ones. No, his wife is, let me double check, but I think his wife is a black lady. But the lady he cheated with was a white lady. That was like, really? His wife is kind of pretty. Let me see. Yeah, for her to be in the age group they're in, she's a cute lady. But see, educated lame. Ray Ray would be like, Jay-Z would probably be like a reformed Ray Ray, because he's worth almost $1 billion. A Ray Ray would be like, okay, some examples of Ray Rays. Now, these are men who they may have money, but they are in and out of jail. T.I., Kodak Black. Who else can't stay out of jail? To me, Meek Mill. Who else would be a Ray Ray? Nicki Minaj's boyfriend, Kenneth Petty. No shade to her. I like Nicki Minaj, but her dude is kind of like a Ray Ray. Offset, because he's constantly getting in legal trouble. People kept trying to say that Obama is an educated lame. I don't think of Obama as lame. Yep, Chris Brown is a Ray Ray. Yep, he is. Any of those celebrity dudes that might be Kodak Black is ugly, but those dudes that kind of get in and out of jail, you know, they can't seem to do the right thing. Those are kind of like the Ray Rays. I'm trying to think. Lil Wayne would kind of be, he'd probably be a Pookie or like a reformed Pookie and Ray Ray. I haven't known him to get in any legal trouble recently, but yeah, he would fall in that category. The Game would be a Pookie and a Ray Ray. You know, because some of the Pookies and Ray Rays in the celebrity sense, they might have some money, but you know, The Game looks like a dude that would still kind of fight you. You know, like he would go out to the club and get into the fight that would get him arrested or get everybody shot. Let's see. All of those dudes. Snoop would be a reformed Pookie and Ray Ray. So would Dr. Dre. Will Smith would probably be, like back in the 80s and 90s, he probably would have been considered an educated lame. Definitely the dude that played Carlton would be an educated lame. Tap. He does kind of look like that. That's why that's so funny. Oh my gosh. That is funny as hell. Because that is what he looks like. Because I'm laughing because I'm thinking about his mugshot picture. Because y'all know he just got arrested again at the border. I think like the U.S.-Canada border. And in his mugshot, that's legit how he looked. It was people, because I saw his mugshot on Instagram, and it was people in the comments like, because you know he has that weird haircut. They were saying he looks like Lisa Simpson. Oh my gosh, that was funny. That was hilarious because literally that's how he looks. I mean, I know it sounds terrible to laugh at, but he does. And the crazy thing with Kodak Black, and see, these, listen, some of these women gas these dudes' heads up. Because I saw this video where some girl sees him in public and just, oh my gosh, it's Kodak Black. And she walks up to him and like is kissing him on the cheek and was all hugged up on him. And I was like, hey, Tassie. I was like, this is why these type of dudes really think that they have options. You know? See, I really feel like women, we kind of know where we fit in. You know what I'm saying? Like, for the most part, if you're a woman and you kind of view yourself as like average looking, you kind of know that. But some of these dudes, I'm telling you, he is a parasite, Tassie. And he's probably the definition of a Pookie and Ray Ray. Because no matter how much success he gets, he cannot stay out of jail. He might go back because he's been accused of like rape or sexual assault. R. Kelly is a Pookie and a Ray Ray. Right. I was appalled. I was like, is she really going off like this about Kodak Black? You know? That was kind of fun, naming Pookies and Ray Rays versus educated lames. But yeah, she it was like she just kept kissing him on the cheek and like just hugging him. You know, the hug where a woman gives a man where her body is just pressed all up on him. I was like, this is just wrong. But then I was like, okay, this is why niggas get hopeful. They get hopeful even when they are, because Kodak Black is like short too. You know what I mean? So to me, he doesn't really have any redeeming characteristics. And then like his personality and the things he's been in trouble for. Let's see. Yeah. So those are some of my examples of educated lames and pookies and ray rays. And I just feel like this whole argument between these men is just laughable. Right, oh boy. I'm telling you, if you go to Instagram, it might be a few posts back, but it's his website. Well, it's a celebrity blog page called The Neighborhood Talk, but I think the Shade Room may have posted it too. And it was just crazy. That's a good point, Tassie. Because the one thing I feel with Pookies and Ray Rays is that because a lot of them maybe grew up in certain environments or participated in illegal activity in the past, it's like they know how to be chameleons. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, because if you think about it, a person who's committing crimes, they have to know certain things about human nature. They have to be able to look at a person and tell when they're an easy mark. And I think that a lot of Pookies and Ray Rays, they use that when they're dealing with women. Because I'm telling you, if some of those dudes, this is what I'm talking about, background checks tomorrow. Because some of those Pookies and Ray Rays, they can put on a suit and you can meet them at a point in their lives where maybe they're trying to change. So maybe they have a decent job. They can clean up nice. And then you find out that he's still into some things. You find out it's not safe to be around him because of the lifestyle that he lives, okay? Yes, Masters of Deception, Tassie. That is perfect. That's the perfect way to describe them. Because they have to be, like, when they come from those street environments. So it's nothing for them to prey on a woman. You know, particularly if you're a woman and you're kind of innocent, you kind of stay to yourself, you don't get out the house a lot. You meet one of these dudes and they're kind of smooth talking, they'll mess you up. Masters of Deceptions. But see, and you know what? That could actually apply to the educated lames too. Because they're probably only lame by things that have nothing to do with them. You know, maybe it's their height, however they look, they just happen to be nerdy. But some of them grew up in the same environments as the Pookies and Ray Rays. So when they hit their growth spurt, when they get to be about 5'10", 5'11", you know, you meet them at a point in their lives where they're not as nerdy. They have a little sex appeal. You think he's a nice dude. You know, maybe I don't know. Maybe he's into computers. He's an engineer. He works on Wall Street, whatever. And you think you hit the jackpot, only to find out that he has a bunch of other women. Like if you watched Living Single, that dude Kyle, in my opinion, would be an educated lame. And, you know, he had a good job. He could dress well. But on the show, his character had a whole bunch of women in rotation. That's how a lot of those dudes do. I'm telling you. I think educated lames and pookies and ray rays are the opposite sides of the same coin. And I would not put it past these guys to have orchestrated this whole debate. Yes. That's a good point, Tassie. They do idolize pimp culture. It's crazy to me. It's crazy to me. They idolize pimp culture, but have the audacity to judge Black women. And the whole concept behind that pimp player type thing is mentally manipulating women. I wouldn't put it past them to be doing that to us on YouTube. Well, not us. We know better. But, doing that to try to make the collective of Black women think that they're really trying to have a debate about their behaviors as men. It's like, no. Because at the end of the day, if Pookie and Ray Ray beats you up or the educated lame cheats on you, they will defend and support each other. You had all these men who are supposedly educated lames defending the Pookie that sexually assaulted and drugged Jasmine Elan, defending R. Kelly. Right. They uplift and support gang culture, Tap. And when I did an upload about Nipsey Hussle or whatever that offended people because I was simply pointing out that he participated in and glorified gang culture. They want to be able to uplift that culture without dealing with everything that comes along with it. Wow. Really, Delphia? Yeah, because they have something called domestic discipline. But some of these guys really think that that's the only way to, quote unquote, get a woman in line. You're right, Tassie. Smoke and mirrors, lies, deception, and deflection. That's very true. And sometimes I feel that I shouldn't be so cynical. And even in my real life, right? I'm the type of person that if people ask me my opinion, I try to do it lovingly. But if people ask me for my opinion, I tell them what I think. And a lot of times when you're the type of person to say the kind of things that we're saying right now, like, listen, you have to be careful, such and such may not be sincere, people get upset about it. Like, it's just, sorry guys if I keep coughing, I have a little bit of a cold. But it's just crazy to me that it's crazy. But see, these guys know that about women. So they know that the majority of women watching these debates will really feel like, oh, maybe these guys are trying to change. Yeah. Because I think, Delphia, even with like the Italian mafia, from what I've heard in a lot of cases, they wouldn't sell drugs and commit other crimes within their own neighborhoods. They would take it somewhere else so they wouldn't destroy their own communities. Yeah. Yep. I know who that is, Tap. Tazzy. Yep. And see, what happens is a lot of times that pimp culture tends to work on women that are already emotionally damaged. The way it works on women who are a little bit stronger emotionally is like these kind of conversations that they're having online, where it's presented as a genuine debate, you know, but I don't think it's sincere. That is dangerous, Tap. That's true, Delphia. And even back in the day, like in certain places, like I think parts of Maryland, they used to have a code that they, you know, if they had to go after a rival gang or whatever, they wouldn't do it on certain days or during certain times of the day. And that way they would make sure that they're not hurting innocent bystanders. Now, these people don't care. You're right, Tassie. They have no intention on changing. See, I pay attention to things, and I understand that some of the stuff that I'm saying might not be true, you know, but like I said earlier, this is just my opinion. But I noticed that this civil war started when certain conversations among Black women were gaining momentum. So you had the conversations in divested circles, and then you had Black women, even if they don't identify as divested or, you know, if they're pro-Black, they were having conversations basically making some of the same observations that we have made about the collective of Black men. And so it's kind of like when it was an opportunity for the Black man's image to take a hit, all of a sudden you have this so-called debate between educated lanes and pookies and ray-rays. But if you pay attention, with some of these guys, they always find a way to bring it back to Black women. They always bring these conversations back to Black women. And that's how I know that they're not really trying to create any type of change. Like I saw one conversation where you had guys saying, well, yeah, the pookies and ray-rays are horrible because they're raised by single Black mothers. So you're having a conversation supposedly about men, but you bring the blame back to Black women. And stuff like that stands out to me because it makes me feel like, okay, so that's what it's all about. And then I've seen other guys kind of compare the Pookie and Ray Ray argument to colorism. I was like, how are the things related? You know? I'm like, how are the two things related? They're not. It's just a way to bring the conversation back to Black women. But you're right, Tassie. They have absolutely no intentions of changing. Tap, I cannot read your comments while I'm drinking water. You said look her up so you can want to shoot up your computer screen. Oh my gosh, I'm dying. Right. It's the women that's so it's just frustrating. It's like you hear these guys' arguments. You know they're full of it. Why would you encourage anyone? Why would you encourage anyone to stay around that? Yep. You're right, Tassie. Men, they go for the most attractive women they can get. They definitely go for the most attractive women they can get. So what's wrong with women trying to go for the most well-off men that we can get? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's true, Tap. I've seen that. I'm like, how do you come onto a woman's panel and attack her? She's allowing you onto her platform and you're attacking her. Let me tell you something. That's like somebody coming to your house with muddy shoes on, tracking mud all on your good carpet, and putting their stinking ass feet on your good coffee table. It's like you're disrespecting that person's platform by arguing with them and attacking them in their space. That's crazy to me. I'm reading you guys' comments. Paddles? Oh, yep. Okay, you must have looked up. Mm-hmm. Yep. You're right, Tassie. They do want brownie points. Tap, white women do shut down bashers. Let me tell you something. They had MGTOW classified as a hate group by the Southern Poverty Law Center like maybe 2 or 3 years ago. They were like, you can think y'all gonna sit up here and talk about us. Had them classified as a hate group. And see, boom. That's another thing I wanted to bring up. I think that's another part of the reason for this kind of public civil war between educated lames and pookies and ray-rays. Because, see, what YouTube does now, see, I didn't know this, but your content can be flagged based on what's in the comment sections now. And they do that because of that whole, I think it was the Momo challenge. And then you had these really disgusting and nasty people who like, it was something about, I guess there's supposed to be a YouTube for kids and that content is supposed to be very child friendly. And there were some very disgusting and perverted messages being allowed onto YouTube Kids and in the comment sections. So I heard this white dude from MGTOW kind of explain that the reason that he was censoring his comment section is because some of the MGTOW people's comments are becoming so out there that it can get channels flagged. So, you know, if you've ever looked on some of these guys' channels that we're talking about, some of the comments can kind of be off the chain, you know? So I think this is just kind of a dog whistle for their audience to kind of tone the public rhetoric down. But you got to realize a lot of these dudes have private spaces, whether it's Facebook groups, Patreon, other platforms. And I'm sure they're expressing their real opinions in those spaces. Right, Tassie, that seems to be what they think. They seem to think that Black women should not have standards. But the crazy thing is they harass Black women for having standards, right? But then if you get in a situation, you know, you get into a relationship that doesn't go well, right? And we've seen some of this play out on YouTube. You get into a relationship that doesn't go well, these same people will drag you and will say, well, you should have done this and you should have done that. And it's like, okay, we're trying to tell women to do that ahead of time so they don't end up with the trash. Okay? And you bash us for doing that. Okay, that's good, Rido Boy. That's good. And I think because of that whole situation, they're now heavily monitoring comment sections on all videos. And I think that's just what this is about. I think that the Black manosphere probably doesn't want the same problem with demonetization as the white manosphere had. I think that when you create something that becomes popular, you start to see it as a business and a brand. And so one thing that I've heard like some larger YouTubers say that they have like people helping them with branding and marketing. So you never know. Some of these guys with larger channels may be doing the same thing. And it's possible that they're being told to distance themselves from kind of these more extreme and radical elements. That's true, Tazzy. But I'm telling you, when white women had white MGTOW classified as a hate group, that's really what that ad situation was about a couple years back. It's because MGTOW was classified as a hate group because they linked it to the alt-right. But you're right, there are differences between the two groups. Definitely. I don't think that Black women really give men the same type of problems as other groups of women. My opinion is that some of these content creators probably started off on here giving their opinions. But if you're building a channel and you notice that you get more traffic on your channel when you have certain talking points, then that's what your channel is going to be based on. And I think that that's what some of these men have done. I mean, you have one guy who's at least honest enough to straight up say, yes, he makes money off of talking about Black women. And I think that there are other Black men who feel the same way, but they're just not going to openly say that. That's true, Tap. And see, this is the thing to me, right? This is the thing I don't understand. Just a general thing about the collective of Black people. We'll adopt certain things from other groups of people, but we won't adopt like the positive things. The way that non-Black women addressed their version of the manosphere ended up being very effective for them. But the reason why it's so hard to address what's going on with the commentary with us as Black women is because I'll be honest, when I first came onto YouTube, I didn't realize like how much content was being made. And I do feel like the rhetoric has become more extreme over the years. But you have a lot of Black women who genuinely, they feel like what goes on in YouTube does not match what they experience in real life. So they don't view the commentary as being dangerous. But to me, since people pay so much attention to social media, I really think like when you see these cases where some Black woman is victimized in some terrible and horrible way, and you see all of these Black people on social media saying that they, think she's at fault, I think people pay attention to that. That, I believe, remember that lady down in Texas that had a parking dispute with that dude? and the guy pulled the gun on her, I think that part of the reason why they thought they could charge her with a felony and only charge him with a misdemeanor is because some of the commentary on social media. I think they really believed that the commentary on social media was a reflection of public opinion because, that's what they figured. And then when they got the backlash after they charged her with the felony, that's the only reason they dropped the charges. So I do think this stuff can be dangerous. Same thing with if Jasmine Elin did not have that law firm behind her, it probably would be very hard for her to have gotten the prosecutor to press charges. And it would have been hard for anyone to hold the club accountable. Because people were really saying, like, they were using that outdated argument of, oh, well, she shouldn't have been out of the house. They were tap dancing all around that situation to avoid holding that man accountable. Then when a second woman came forward and said, well, we were supposed to be dating each other, but he drugged me and raped me, they were trying to make excuses in that situation. So I do feel like a lot of this commentary is very dangerous because it's going to make prosecutors feel like this is a reflection of overall public opinion. That's true, Tassie. They are the center amongst Black people. Delphia, in some ways they do. In some ways they do. I think that White MGTOW makes some interesting points about, with their concerns about immigration. I think that, from what I gather, their concern is basically that they have built certain things for their collective of women. And they don't appreciate the way that feminism is being used in their perception to, quote unquote, attack them. I think that what's happening with Black men in MGTOW is they're trying to connect themselves to a struggle that does not actually exist for them. That's just my opinion. Yep, that's true. Tassie, their hate did get Asia McGowan killed. No, Delphia, from what I've seen, they don't advocate for that. You're right. That section of MGTOW actually makes videos talking about how they don't believe that women should be hurt or assaulted. And some of those guys have even made videos acknowledging that if they met their ideal woman, that they would get married. There are actually some guys within that sector of MGTOW who have gotten married. Oh, that's interesting, Delphia. Terrorists. I definitely think they should be classified as hate speech. If MGTOW in general is viewed as hate speech, then I don't feel like it should be a difference with Black MGTOW. Especially because of the number of videos and some of the commentary. In my opinion, it could be hate speech for gender and race because the commentary is based on their views on us as Black women. And it's gotten so bad that you actually now have some white male YouTubers who are making commentary about Black women, repeating some of the same talking points from the Black dudes in MGTOW. MGTOW. Yep, they are worlds apart. It's just shocking to me that It's shocking to me that people actually think that the struggles are the same. I mean, all of the things that I have heard Black men on YouTube complain about are things that are more so related to their status, um, as being subjugated under another group of men. So the laws that they complain about, they're not laws that we've created. And a lot of the laws that they've complained about are laws that actually benefit other groups of women. When it comes to child support, I think I showed the link in a prior chat, but the average woman who does collect child support only gets $329 a month. That's nothing when it comes to raising a child. So, and a lot of these guys that complain about child support only complain about it because they have several different orders, because they have children by several different women. That's something that's within their control. Yep, that's true, Tazzy. Really, Rider Boy? Oh no. I know there was a lady. There was one relatively young girl that killed herself. She was like 16 or 17. Somebody Lovelace. She killed herself because like this grown Black man was trolling her. And then there's another lady. She was either killed or killed herself due to trolling. Both of those were Black. A Black girl and a Black woman. I think it was Ashley Lovelace. Yeah. Right, Tap. They feel like they're owed. Well, Tap, see, a lot of these dudes don't understand that they actually support feminism. They don't want submission, because submission would mean that they would have to get married and be committed and faithful to one woman. It would mean that they would have to understand, right, that their wives would not work. Wanting a woman to work and expecting 50-50 in relationships, that's a feminist point of view. So a lot of these Black dudes on YouTube don't realize that they're big, raging, pink pussy hat wearing feminists. Oh, that's true. That's a good point. But see, Delphia, a lot of them seem to think that within the society that they are, it's like weird, because like I think there's a narrative that's pushed that presents this idea that Black men are viewed as a terror. But if you actually think about it, the society can't view them in that way, because they're in a society that has military, weaponry and all of that stuff. So in actuality, they're not an actual threat. Yeah, Delphia, white feminism uses Black men whenever white feminists want something. That's a good point, Tap. Why? It's like Black women are expected not to be hypergamous, when women all over the world pursue men with resources, regardless of that man's color. when women are marrying up, which is basically what hypergamy is, that's what Kim Kardashian did. People ignore it now, but even, I think the Yeezy brand is worth $1 billion. So a lot of people don't realize it, but he actually still has more money than her. Well, when you think about his assets and net worth, probably. So Kim Kardashian practiced hypergamy because Kanye West was probably the wealthiest man that would deal with her. Other groups of women do it too. That's why they're so mad at Sierra. I'm sure Sierra loves Russell Wilson. They're a beautiful couple. They seem to really care about each other. But they're mad at Sierra because she was able to be hypergamous. And now her husband is the highest paid man in the NFL. That's why they don't like Eve. I'm sure Eve loves her husband. They seem happy. But she practiced hypergamy and married a very wealthy man. That's right, Tap. He will forever be salty about that, Tap. Ray J will never get over Kim Kardashian because it seems like a lot of black men feel like when they're done with you, you're supposed to just hang your kitty cat on the shelf and not use it anymore and just totally be done. He cannot stand the fact. I think they said she still makes at least $100,000 a month off of that tape. Hey, Traveling Diva. She's still making money off that tape? You're right, Tassie. Struggle Up has done nothing for black women. Or children, yeah. It's left us in situations where we have no generational wealth. It's difficult for a lot of black people to do basic things for their children. It's just not beneficial to us at all. Welcome, Traveling Diva. I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you've joined us. They're definitely mad at Eve and Serena. Because even when you think about Serena's case, because people point out that her net worth is higher than his, but Reddit is an asset. So if he's ever ready to sell it, if her husband's ever ready to sell it or merge it with another company, he'll be a millionaire several hundred times over. And see, these are the conversations that these dudes on YouTube don't want black women having. And in my opinion, that's why they're having these educated Layman, Pookie, and Ray Ray debates. Yeah, you're right, Tat. I really think a lot of black dudes hate to see black women happy. Let me tell you something. Back in the days, I was in a relationship with this dude. We dated 2 or 3 years. It ended because he cheated on me and got another woman pregnant. Okay? 7 years after we break up, my husband and I get married. This dude finds out that I'm married and actually got in his feelings. Like, I'm not supposed to be happy and move on with my life. Like, they literally get upset about it. And I know that I have probably said this before, but I just can't get over this. I'm telling you, one of my friends has a Facebook group where people talk about relationships and they send in little silly relationship questions, right? This guy literally asked, and this was a grown man, a fully grown man. He literally asked whether or not he should hit up his ex-girlfriend's husband because he was salty that they were celebrating their 10-year anniversary on Facebook. Mind you, he had not dated this woman, during her marriage or anything, but he was just salty and in his feelings. And see, this is why I'm always telling my fellow Black women, cut your exes off. If you don't have children with them, don't let them see your life on social media because they will get angry. I saw this other dude. Well, it wasn't the guy that sent the relationship question in. It was his little silly girlfriend. So, that particular scenario, it was like a woman had been dating this dude for a couple of years. And the second woman is cheating with the dude, knowing that he had a girlfriend. Side woman gets pregnant. So, girlfriend breaks up with dude. Fast forward, I think she said 8 years. Her and the guy had stayed together and their child was 8 years old or maybe about to turn 9. Dude sees his ex-girlfriend out somewhere with her husband and their kids. And the girl was in her feelings because she was like, ever since he's seen her, he can't stop talking about her. I'm like, yeah, you're an idiot for thinking that you want a prize. And he's just jealous because he can't stand to see her happy. I literally believe that, I'm telling you, some of y'all have ex-boyfriends that are only calling and texting y'all every now and then to hear about your misery. I know some women who think that their ex-boyfriends are friends with them. And I'm like, girl, he's just calling to make sure that you're still alone. I said, you could stop him from contacting you by blocking his number. Or just tell him you got a new man in your life. And he will go away. Why? Because he doesn't want to hear about you being happy. That's true, Tassie. Black women do end up paying the ultimate price. Yep, Traveling Diva. Serena and Eve will benefit, and their children. It's like they have no concept of generational wealth. Even something like, a lot of people may see this as a small thing, but even something like, say you have a house or a townhouse or a condo, something that you own that you've paid off. Being able to leave that either to your child or to a niece or nephew, that puts them in a situation where they don't have to pay a mortgage. That's money that they could save. Or say you give it to them and they decide to sell it. That's money that they could then use to do something else. Oh, I didn't know he was a hedge fund manager, Tassie. I did think it was interesting that they were at the royal wedding. Because I think a lot of those events are like, don't get me wrong, I think some of those people are probably friends, but I think when you see celebrities at those weddings or at the Met Gala or at Fashion Week, I think those are like networking opportunities. As a matter of fact, that lady, Kim Whitley, she said that it was some Hollywood party that she almost didn't go to. But she said like her friend or something convinced her to go. And she was like, okay, this is just to get together. We're going to eat and have a couple drinks. She said she left that party with 3 job offers. So I do think a lot of those events are networking opportunities. Yep, that's true, Tap. Unfortunately, a lot do leave children in debt. Like, I can understand, say a really young kid dies unexpectedly, right? And you have to have a GoFundMe. But when a person is fully grown and they die without caring enough to have life insurance, it's kind of like, okay, your family not only has to deal with grief, but they now have to deal with the fact that your death has left them with a financial burden. But of course, that sounds terrible to say. I believe that, Tassie. I believe it, and I'm telling you, people are gonna look around one day and be shocked at how much Reddit is worth. Because I mean, she'll have, she'll still have some of her endorsement deals, and I think she has her clothing company. But what a lot of people aren't really thinking about is it's possible that her big money making days might kind of be behind her because she's getting older. Don't get me wrong, she's still like amazing in tennis, but it's just at some point, at some point your ability to do all that kind of dies down. Whereas since he's business minded, his ability to make money will just continue. It'll just continue to grow. So I don't think he's as broke as a lot of these people on here try to make it seem. That's quite possible, Tassie. Because one thing I have noticed about Serena is she's not a dumb woman. So I don't think that she would have married someone unless she perceived that it would benefit her financially. That's just my opinion, though. But I think she's smart enough not to make a bad financial decision. Well, that, and it's possible that, I don't know exactly what you can do on Reddit, but if he finds a way to make it something similar to YouTube, like an alternate platform, that could be a money making avenue. Or, like I said, if he finds a way to merge it with some other company, he could possibly make money off of it. That's true, Tap. They act like these dudes on here act like she never dated black dudes. She was with Common. It was rumored that she dated Drake. And her and Common dated for a good amount of time, but Common cannot seem to keep a relationship. People don't point that out with him because he's a man, but none of his relationships really seem to work. So she moved on with her life. I don't blame her. And she made sure to leave that relationship while she was still kind of in her prime. She didn't have like a lot of attachments to him. So she could make a clean break and move on and not have to deal with him or any of her other exes. And they look really happy. And it's interesting too because people make fun of Serena because at the time they got married, she had more net worth than her husband. But they didn't say the same thing about Paris Hilton. I think Nikki is the one that married into similar wealth. But Paris Hilton, I mean, her husband's a millionaire, but I think at the time they got married, he was only worth $4 or $5 million. And, Paris Hilton is an heiress to the Hilton fortune. And I noticed, like, people didn't give her a hard time about that. They didn't act like she was marrying some broke Dusty the way people did with Serena. It's like, okay, Serena's husband's a millionaire. He's a businessman in his own right. Oh, I didn't know that she left him, Tassie. So see, it's got to be him. Why do all these women keep leaving him? But see, people won't think about it like that. Don't get me wrong, Common, I've always had an appreciation for his music. I'm just saying that when it's Halle Berry, people always point out that she's perpetually single. But they don't make that same connection with Common. So it's just stuff I find interesting, you guys. Well, it has been a really good conversation. I've enjoyed talking to you all. I will be live tomorrow, 7 p.m. Eastern Time. We can have a conversation about what we feel about background checks during the dating process. I hope to see you guys then. I hope you all have a wonderful night. I don't know if it's morning for some of you guys, depending on what part of the world you're in. But I hope you have a good day, and I hope to catch you tomorrow at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Good night.